Hello, welcome, and sorry. Got to give a shout out to Rodriguez here. First chat of the day, the best chat of the day. And if you want to say something nice to the boys here, we're going to put it on screen here to start the show. So Rodriguez says, most slept on trio in Bitcoin. Unfortunately, we're missing our third person today. Rajat's busy, but it says, look forward to another Maple show here in a bit. Appreciate the content as always. So thank you, Rodriguez. Welcome to another episode here, another live Friday live Maple Bitcoin. I'm joined by my good buddy Forrest. We are matching hoodies, even though you might not be able to tell. We're a little bit different shade of blue there, but yeah, Rajat's at the is it the Canadian Bitcoin Conference?
Yep, Canadian Bitcoin Conference in Montreal that's going on right now. I've seen a couple live streams from it. I think it's the biggest one in Canada, actually. The other
They're
one
doing a live stream.
Yeah, I saw. Yeah, Bitcoin Well's doing a live stream of at least of the talk that Adam's doing. I'm not sure there's a live stream going on of the whole show yet, but
oh, gotcha.
Yeah, the whole conference.
I believe Rajat's speaking, right?
Yeah, he's doing a keynote.
Yeah. Oh, keynote, really?
Yeah. I mean, he did a panel at yeah, I mean, so exciting. Yeah, he did a panel at the Bitcoin conference in Vegas, and now he's doing a keynote at this conference. So he's a big wig, man.
Topic is?
Yeah, it was something. It was like why 0.01 Bitcoin is important, or something like that. It's around that concept of like what this thing is worth, and why even a small allocation is so important for anybody. Yeah,
interesting. Well, I'd like to, hopefully we can see it somehow, some way.
Yeah, I think they're going to record it, but sometimes these things don't hit the light of day. So yeah, I hope that happens too.
Yeah, hopefully he at least gets a copy of it for whoever records it.
Yeah, for
Throw
sure.
it on the channel.
Yeah, definitely.
But, yeah, it is Friday. It is another stream here. I got Guinness. This actually isn't a Guinness. It's a O'Hara's, I think. Another Irish beer here. So I've been off the sauce for the last couple episodes. So I'm
you got to make up for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. 65 Sats is asking where our QR code is. We have a QR code. George's going to get on that, throw it up in the corner. Anybody who doesn't know, that's a QR code to donate sats. So if somebody wants to support the channel, get some value out of the live stream, we haven't talked about much yet, but if you're watching, you find some insight, some knowledge, you can repay that right away via Lightning by scanning that QR code and sending some sats through Wallet of Satoshi, Coinos, Phoenix, what have you.
And it looks like, what is it today? Oh, it's the 17th. Somebody sent in 455 yesterday. Must have just been from a random video. But nice. We are also on Nostra. We're on Zapstream, Forest.
Yep.
So we got Letha over there who zapped us 8,888 sats to start the show today for Fat Zap Friday.
Amazing. Awesome.
So thank you, Letha. Okay, well, we got this one's titled Hard Assets Will Save Your Life. Get hard assets. That's the thumbnail today. So let's kick things off for us. Let's talk a little bit about gold, silver, Bitcoin, where we're at. Then we're going to talk a little bit about some community stuff. Forrest is going to talk about just the overall sentiment in the market, especially for people who are somewhat newer to Bitcoin, who haven't been through that was a pretty big drop. I think that was actually right after our show last week, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Because
it happened on Friday, the large liquidation. Yeah.
So it's something that unless you go through it a couple times, you can't really prepare yourself for it. But it's important to just talk through these things. That's why we're around. That's why we have so many great people in this community here. And so yeah, let's kick things off. Gold hit a all-time high yesterday or today. When was that, Forrest?
That happened today. So all-time high of US dollar amount for 4,380 an ounce.
Oh.
And it's retraced a little bit. So it's currently at 4,237. And during this rally, like this rally in gold really started kind of in September, August, September of this year. And there has been some red candles, but they've kind of been few and far between. And this is so far the biggest red candle we've seen, with a lot of people calling gold overbought, right? Like how much money can flow into gold, right? How efficient is the acquisition of gold and how much can it, how adaptive is the market to buyers and sellers, right? Like you've seen you even mentioned it before the show, the lineups out front of whatever gold exchange, right? That slows things down a little bit. There's this physical restriction before, as something gets bought, right? Like that's a really slow process. With Bitcoin, you can pay a little bit extra and get into the next block and have final settlement in 10 minutes, right? And there's a lot of space in the mempool right now. There's a lot of ability to just buy on exchanges really easily, and then transfer over, buy over Lightning, hold in Lightning, layer twos. Yeah, the market is quicker to adapt to buying and selling pressure in something like digital, like Bitcoin. Although a lot of gold is being traded digitally too, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. And maybe if you're watching this right now, if you're watching the live show or later, and you want to leave a comment after on the video, let us know if what the kind of the sentiment is in your area, your country. Is it gold? Are people actually lining up at gold shops? Have you seen this with your own eyes, or is that an internet generated thing? It was in Australia, I think, the clip that I saw, people lined up outside the gold shop for a couple blocks to get gold. But the other thing too there, Forrest, is like Bitcoin's the only asset that trades 365, 24/7. So just like every weekend, we're going to see kind of where the market's at in terms of how people are feeling. And we usually get the first glimpse of it. It pours into Bitcoin either in a good way or a bad way, depending on what angle you're coming from. But yeah, let us know what country you're in and kind of what's going on there. If it's people are rushing to buy gold, or is that just an internet thing?
Yeah, it's really interesting. The weekends, Bitcoin, a lot of people will say like, oh, don't pay attention to the weekends because when the market hits on Monday, like things will rebalance really quickly and like you'll see the real market adapt from then. And I think that is true in a sense, because that really is the more stable price when everybody's active in the market. But what's interesting is when you have this illiquid market based on just less people being active during the weekend, you actually get a higher signal of what is going on with sentiment around the world with this asset that trades 24/7. And that aspect of why Bitcoin is valuable, being that market you can buy and sell and get in and out of positions and make your choices heard, right? Like it's a choice to buy Bitcoin when you think, like people will make the choice to buy Bitcoin, like traders, when they think that there's going to be some positive news in the markets, right? Or there is positive news, and vice versa, right? So like I remember missile got shot in like the Strait of whatever, over in the Middle East there, Saudi Arabia area. I can't remember what strait it was, Red Sea or something like that. And like immediately, like this was, last year, I guess sometime. I don't know when it was. Immediately Bitcoin took a hit, and that was like a Saturday, right? And it's just like the market reacts to it. So you get a lot of signal. It's not necessarily like the accurate price of what Bitcoin is, but you get the signal of the global market sentiment on, are we feeling good about the market? Are we feeling bad about the market? Like are things good or bad? Which you get on the weekend.
So we should maybe just walk through that, because it actually took me quite a while to understand why that is. But it has a lot to do with like the leverage plays, right? Where if people, investors who have a lot of money in longs or shorts or whatever that is, and they see something happening like what you suggested there, they can kind of predict what's going to happen, how the market's going to react to that. And so, for example, if they were short on an asset and they saw, or maybe vice versa, I mean, either way, they're trying to buy or sell Bitcoin based on what's happening in the globe for Monday morning, essentially, to make sure that they don't get liquidated. Is that kind of the concept of it?
Maybe. I mean, people can use Bitcoin as a hedge as well for the rest of their portfolio.
True.
So if they have a portfolio and all of a sudden something happens, a tariff tweet, right? And they think, oh shoot, my whole portfolio is going to get wrecked Monday morning. I'm going to short Bitcoin because I can, because I think that it's also going to negatively get affected by this. And at least that position will outweigh the negative of my my other portfolio that will be down when Monday opens.
I think that's a better way to look at it, as a hedge. Well, as for whatever else they got going on, they can kind of use Bitcoin as a hedge against whether they think they're going to lose on that bet. They can take the other side of that with Bitcoin. That's the idea.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, there's all sorts of, there's other things going on too, right? Like, I mean, with that massive liquidation we had last week, which we mentioned a little bit prior show of that being a subject, that was caused. I mean, a lot of people were saying, okay, that's caused by the tariff tweet of 100% tariffs on China or whatever it is. And there was a lot of crazy like insider trading going on, or perceived insider trading, like shorts up to the minute of the release of that being layered on. But there was also this vulnerability with this this stable coin, and people were using this stable coin on Binance. It wasn't USDT. I can't remember exactly the symbol of it, but people are using it as collateral and borrowing against it. And with DeFi, you can there's restrictions within it, but like you can kind of get around them. You can do like looping. So you basically take out a loan using collateral, like this digital dollar token that the people were using. They get paid to supply it. They get a yield to supply it as collateral, and then they take out they speculate on investments with the collateral that they get from supplying it, and then you could just do that over and over. So like you could put it up as collateral, get Bitcoin, put the Bitcoin up as collateral, get the stable coin, reinforce the stable coin position, take out more collateral there, and you can just like loop this thing into this like never-ending leverage system. And then because you're on a stable coin, you think, okay, well, I'm using a stable coin as collateral. Like, what's it going to go to? 99 cents or 100 or 101 cents? Like, it's not going to liquidate me because it's not going down to 65 cents. However, there was this vulnerability that was known about, and somebody exploited that vulnerability basically around the same time as this macro event of the tariffs. So like, people will see, oh, super obvious, the market's going down because of this tariff tweet, right? Even if it's just temporary. Like a lot of people that think just now, okay, well, it's just going to be temporary. But that temporary aspect of that combined with an exploit of these over leveraged systems of traders, basically a huge amounts of shorts were put onto this digital stable coin, which liquidated anybody using it as collateral, because their collateral was just out of whack, right? And they were super leveraged. And then that created these liquidations across the platforms of all of these crypto coins. And there were like, I don't know if you saw it, but like on certain exchanges, some of these altcoins literally went to zero temporarily. And it's not just like the market is there. Like this is a real lesson in like market liquidity and why Bitcoin is so superior to these other ones. There's certain exchanges and like even decentralized exchanges, they will pair people and just be an intermediary. But then there's also exchanges that have something like liquidity providers. So they have these they deal with these other basically businesses that will provide large amounts of liquidity at certain prices. And so when the market hits those prices, they can now accept in that coin, right? So these crypto exchanges, like that's one reason why to completely avoid them is like how difficult, like it's such a complex thing to build a market. And if you're a Bitcoin only exchange, you have one job, and that's to build the most robust Bitcoin market you can for your exchange, so that when the price fluctuates and there's crazy volatility, you can reach out to some liquidity providers that are willing to give you liquidity even with the volatility. Now you go into the thousands of other coins that you might have on one of these crypto casinos, and all of a sudden there's liquidity providers that are saying, you know what, I'm out. I'm not providing you anything here because I don't know what this thing's worth right now, because the market doesn't. And so this thing goes to zero because there's no one else on the other side of the trade willing to supply the coin or token. And these things just disintegrate, and the whole facade gets taken out. Like it's like the tide goes out, and you see who's swimming naked, and it's these coins and literally, like, that's what's crazy too, is like people think all this stuff is like people, but we know that even with traditional markets, a huge amount of activity is trading bots.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's just legitimized, like that, there's big buildings with just computers, and then they're connected as close as they can to the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ, right? So that they have the least amount of latency between the information and trades. Same thing is happening with these crypto coins, but like even more so in percentage wise, because they have no real people like behind them actually buying and selling them. They might have some bag holders, but those people aren't really that active. And it's again, a small percentage of what's actually being done. So as soon as these things go away, as soon as the liquidity goes away, dries up, they're still like they're just on autopilot. So they begin selling into the downwards momentum, and they're selling into a market that doesn't have a buyer. So the thing goes to zero, right? It's just nonsense. It's all just nonsense. And it makes you realize that like Bitcoin is the only viable project within them all.
I saw quite a few that went down literally to, I think, I forget what the list was, but there were some big ones even. Cardano, I think, was one of them that took like a 90% drop. But it'll be interesting. I think it'll be really interesting. And I want to hear what you think about this too. But like, it seems pretty obvious right now. Like if we think about what you were just talking about there with these bots, it is kind of a new phenomenon compared to like 20 years ago where you'd have physical people in physical offices on Wall Street on the phones. Like we've all seen the movies, and that's how it actually was. So I feel like things would have moved less quickly at that point because it's humans, right?
Absolutely.
So we're like in an accelerated pace right now. And I think that it seems based on, the people who pull the strings in the world, it seems like we're moving into a tokenized economy, which kind of makes sense from my perspective. It doesn't really make sense that you shouldn't be able to trade on Saturdays, Sundays, nighttime. Like we have the ability to do that. We have the infrastructure already. It's just a matter of, anytime you're making a move like that, like such a huge transition, there's always going to be people who kind of get wiped out along the way. And those people want to hang on to that old system as long as possible. But do you feel like Bitcoin will be less volatile once we get to that stage where everything's tokenized and all these markets are kind of trading 24/7? Because then Bitcoin won't be the only thing where everything gets flushed in and out of. It'll just be, I foresee it as being a lot more stable at that point.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. I mean, so one thing there that I do want to talk about is this idea that like tokenization is here. We can do that. We can put all the stocks on some blockchain, whatever it is, even if it's one that's developed and built by these companies. That's been possible for a long time now. And so the question is there a reason for the inefficiency? Do they want the inefficiency? Do they want the control?
Yeah.
Do they want it to not trade 24/7? Because otherwise, like it's a no-brainer. Like, it's just an assumption when you think of, tokenization is way more efficient. It's going to be way cheaper. You can trade 24/7, all of these benefits. So why aren't they doing it? So there might be a reason. I don't know. This is just a theory I have, right? So there's maybe a reason that they're not doing this, or that they're being as slow as possible towards that, right? And I think it's because of control, right? They have a lot of regulation, they have a lot of control over the markets, and they literally can like flick switches on and off to stop things from being too volatile.
True.
And what you talked about, in the 80s when people are taking calls and yelling out to the floor to buy and sell. Not only is that's incredibly inefficient, but like literally people were like missing, like, because you got to yell across, like that other person might not even hear to like make that trade. Like trades will literally just get missed, right? In that kind of environment, which is insane. So yeah, of course, incredible efficiencies that they could do with tokenization of these assets, because that's all it is anyway. Like they paperize, like nobody's taking certificates of ownership of shares. Like it's just a token on it's just an internal accounting token on your brokerage. And you don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but is that brokerage taking ownership, or did they have it beforehand, or are they like, is there just a big delay between that? Like it's so like hidden, what's actually going on there, and so much assumption. So tokenization does make sense. I just wonder if there's if there's a purposeful reason that the people in power of these markets have resisted it to such a degree. And I think a lot of crypto people have not thought about that. They just think tokenization is inevitable. It's the way to go. And maybe it is inevitable, but I think it's going to be slowed down intentionally as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, like if you just thought this out and said, okay, well, everything's going to be tokenized, everything's going to trade 24/7, 365. Just think about how many jobs would be lost the next day from that. Like
Exactly.
how many people have just like soaked the system of a fee every time you move one thing over to another one, and there's companies who take a small fraction of that every time. It's like literally, printing money. It's one of those things where Bitcoin for me makes so much sense because it resembles nature. It provides value to those who are providing value themselves. And I feel like the system that we live in right now is basically the opposite of nature, where the people, in this case, we're talking about the closest to the money printer, essentially, they're able to extract the most value while providing the actual minimal amount of value to society.
Yep.
So I just feel like even when we think about transitioning from like the age of horse and buggy to automobile, like there would have been a lot of friction there, a lot of people who would have been out of jobs in that transition, and they probably fought it for as long and as hard as they possibly could. But eventually, when things move in one direction and when things are cheaper, more efficient, people usually just start doing that, and eventually it kind of fades away. And that's kind of how I see this transition too. They're not going to be like right out front implementing it. It's just going to be naturally, I think.
Yeah, and I think you're right. And I think you're right. It's just the same thing with Bitcoin, right? Like Bitcoin's unstoppable, but they're doing everything they can to slow it down
Yeah.
because it takes all the jobs of the banks and it destroys the entire model of debt-based systems. Like basically, it's a complete reset. It's a completely different. What it is, it's a completely different monetary network that has its own rules, and those rules cannot be exploited in the same way as they're currently exploiting the fiat rules to benefit themselves. So they don't want that. They want rules they can exploit. And with the stock market and real world assets and tradable assets, I think it's the same thing. So I think that's going to be disrupted by tokenization at some point. And I think, that's like the dream of so many crypto people, especially right now. Like all the people on ETH, they're like, oh, the ETH is like the corporate blockchain. Like everyone's going to RWA on ETH. And it's like, okay, well, maybe, but they could also do it on any other chain. And that doesn't mean that ETH is a good store of value. It doesn't
Exactly.
mean that buying ETH or any token that's going to be the rails for tokenization of all the stocks, right? Doesn't mean that these things are going to be worth holding, especially compared to Bitcoin, right? So it's like Bitcoin is designed to be a store of value. It's designed to be sound money. These other things are designed to be rails of being able to tokenize assets. There's a completely different value proposition, and I really don't see how the value accrues to the token, right? It would still make sense, as an investor, right, to buy the tokenized version of Nvidia that rides on the rails of whatever token, but it doesn't mean that I need to own the token that that are of the rails that it rides on, right? It's just that's not the thing that you hold, right? Yeah.
I think the argument would be that every time you used it, every time you moved, let's say a share to another wallet, you'd have to use gas or fees or whatever the hell it's called in crypto. So there would be inherent demand for that token. But I completely agree. There's a difference between a utility and a store of value, and I think that Bitcoin has proven to be, and we're going to look at a chart here in a second, but proven to be the best store of value by a very wide margin compared to anything else in the physical world, in the crypto world, anything, because of its properties, because of its characteristics.
So if that's the case, that you need to have some ETH in your wallet to be able to move your wrapped Nvidia, that sounds pretty inefficient to me. That
Agreed.
sounds like, like I don't pay when like there's trading firms out there that you can that you don't pay for. Like there's a little bit of under the hood sort of activity that goes on so that they can make a profit, but I'm not directly paying for it. I'm not directly having to hold anything for it. You know, if I use Wealthsimple or somebody uses Robinhood, right? There are transaction fees for selling and buying stocks on other platforms, but it seems pretty inefficient to be plugging into a network that the users now have to pay to be able to move their assets around. So that's an inefficiency that's just being overlooked by the people that are super bullish on tokenization, if that's the way it's going to move. But, you know, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how we got down this rabbit hole, but
I'm not sure either.
Rodriguez says, here in the USA, Costco is shoving gold into my face every weekend. I mean, yeah, it makes sense too, right? And when people, I feel like we're kind of at the stage right now where like the average person is starting to catch on that there is a problem. Like I feel like they've been struggling at the grocery stores and with their bills for a while now, but I think it's kind of forefront. It's mainstream now. We talked about it last week on the show. The debasement trade is happening right now. It's on CNN. It's on all these mainstream New York Times. And so the first thought for a lot of people is because they're so familiar with places like Costco selling them gold now, which has been around for thousands of years. I feel like that's the easy, convenient route. The first thing that people do, they're like, oh, okay, well, gold's going up. The fiat dollar, if they know what a fiat dollar is dying. I should probably get something here. And I think the first step that they take is somewhere they're most familiar with, which to me would be Costco and would be gold. So it would make sense that where we are right now in the first kind of leg in this, you know, debasement trade would go through gold.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's the first step. It's the leader. It's front running, and people have done some correlation charts of, you know, like an advance of like kind of shifting the charts and stuff. And who knows how accurate all this stuff is, but showing that gold front runs to some correlation of Bitcoin's move, right? There's even somebody on our school community that shared that recently. I don't know if you saw that chart, but I think he moved it 53 days, gold 53 days ahead of Bitcoin, and it was 65% correlated or something. Like it was pretty good, pretty interesting. Looked pretty good there. Yeah, and I think people that buy gold, like, you know, this is the topic here. Hard assets will save your life. Like gold is so much better than dollars. Not as a medium of exchange, but as a store of value, it is so much better than dollars. And I think people will recognize eventually, after they buy all that physical gold, they'll probably forget about it. They'll just at some point remember, oh, I got this dusty old chunk of gold here. Maybe I should sell it. And then they'll realize, oh, there's an incredible amount of friction selling this thing. If it's if it's a special coin, like they went to a shop and or they got tricked by some gold scammer, they'll have bought they'll have paid a massive premium on top of the spot value, like the melt value of that asset, because it has Donald Trump's face on it or whatever it is, right? And that premium, you know, if it's a 10, 20, 30% premium, well, then gold's got to go up 10, 20, 30% before you're even break even after buying it because of that premium. And then trying to sell it, no one's going to give you spot price because they have to have a margin too. So there's a massive spread to the downside when you're selling. Physical metals are a nightmare. Trying to buy and sell them, like it is not fun. It is not fun for anybody that hasn't done that. So those are a couple things that you should, if you're looking at gold and silver, if you've bought into it and stuff or whatever, you should be thinking about maybe those things, right? As anybody that's watching this, the exchange of it back to other goods has a ton of friction.
You get cash though. I know that. I went through the painful learning process myself of buying silver in 2020, and I cashed out the majority of it this year. And I got about, like you said there, I paid a cost for having the commemorative editions that nobody cares about when they're melting.
Damn.
It doesn't matter how nice the picture is on the coin. If they're melting it down, you don't get rewarded for that. But yeah, I probably lost 25 to 30% on that. It hadn't really moved. I sold at the wrong time probably. But again, this was when Bitcoin was like 80K. So I probably did okay on the trade.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had to show my ID. I went into this place that looked like somebody had been stabbed the night before that. I got some cash, but yeah, I mean, it's just, it's archaic.
Yes, exactly. And again, I started that rant off with, it's way better than holding
Yeah.
dollars, and it is, but it is full of friction and incredibly difficult. And yeah, you got to go to some coin shop with bars on the wall. They want your ID, and yeah, they're going to pay you cash, and you know, you retained your value at, well, hopefully at the bare minimum. But yeah, it's it's not as it's not all that glitters is not gold necessarily with gold.
Yeah, get some cash. I went and bought some beer. I went and bought some gas for the car, and then
Nice.
half of it was gone. I'm like, okay, sweet.
Yeah.
I wanted to share this though. This is pretty interesting because again, we've been talking about silver, gold, a lot of things on here. Going back again, sound money is hard assets is what you want to be holding right now. And you know, as we go further into this transition and the fiat collapse, I think there's going to be more and more people deciding, should I go into gold? Should I go into silver? How do I do that? Do I do it on paper? Do I do it physical? How do I store it? Or should I go into Bitcoin? But if you look at Bitcoin or gold, even though gold's kind of shot up in the last couple months here, this is a chart from the last 15 years of Bitcoin compared to gold.
Wow.
So you can see here this green line. Can you see it okay, Forrest?
Yeah, I can see it.
This green line here, it says $1 invested in Bitcoin. So cherry picking a little bit here in terms of when, you know, the dates, but at the same time, not really, because this is when Bitcoin was literally, you know, discovered or introduced. So
Yeah.
$1 worth of Bitcoin, you can see what it's worth now if you bought it, I guess, on day one of Bitcoin.
I think that must have been
$100
when it first had a market price, I imagine.
maybe.
Yeah, because it's not starting in 2009 there. 2010, right, is the first
Yeah.
point, so.
Well, I guess the way I look at it is this would be 2010 right here.
Yeah, so just before 2010.
Yeah, so I guess 2019 would be here. So yeah, probably that would make the most sense whenever it actually had a price.
Yeah.
So that's the price, obviously the fiat price. So we're all used to seeing.
Mhm.
This bottom line here, this little dotted line is $1 invested in gold at the same time. So it would be worth about $4 right now. Compared to 100 million. But again, there wasn't many people, none of us, I don't think anybody watching the show would have been buying Bitcoin at this point. But then this is the one that I was really paying attention to here, the orange one, which is Bitcoin per ounce of gold. So you can see here, 2021 kind of dipped. That's where it was closest. But for the most part, it's just been kind of a downward trend, gold compared to holding Bitcoin. So whenever you're thinking about allocating and looking at this stuff, it's always best to look at it from a very big standpoint, not just like the last couple months or a year even, because this is pretty telling of how the market sees Bitcoin versus gold.
Well, yeah, I mean, and Bitcoin is becoming more and more of a mature market. So this is a really interesting chart. You can kind of see this like hump pattern almost with the orange line from 2014 to 2018. It's like gold is sort of like bouncing back against Bitcoin, right? But it's still ultimately like that low there in 2018 is lower than in 2014. So even priced in gold, right? It takes less gold to buy Bitcoin. And now we're like 2022 to 2024, we're kind of seeing this little hump, and it's almost like the diminishing returns that people think we have. But yeah, priced
Like
in
right
gold. Here. Yeah, right here. Yeah, exactly. That looks like 2018 to 2021 and 2014 to 2028, or 2018 in the sort of same pattern, right? I think this, if I was just to look at this chart and make an assumption on a predictive assumption on the future, to me, it looks like it's going to, you're going to get less Bitcoin for your gold coming up soon.
Well, based on the trend, the trend would suggest that it's going to keep separating.
Yeah.
Which means that it's going to keep going up in fiat dollars, and it's going to cost you more gold to get one Bitcoin, essentially. This little hump right here would be actually Bitcoin or gold actually performing better than Bitcoin, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the same thing happened before, right? But it's this sort of like not enough to reverse the trend.
Reverse it, right?
Yeah, not nearly enough to reverse the trend. It's sort of just this sideways market aspect of gold, just sort of trading almost sideways to Bitcoin with a slight upwards. But yeah, for a period of time, like 2018 to 2021, that's like literally sideways. Like if you take away those two dips and you just look at the high points between that, that's almost like flat. It's crazy. And then it just dips down when Bitcoin rips, right? So if we look at that and we look at it in today's cycle, where is the ripping of Bitcoin, right? Where's the downward in this orange? We haven't seen it yet in this cycle,
right?
And that is Bitcoin outperforming gold's performance, which to me feels inevitable. Like it just feels inevitable because Bitcoin is so much better than gold, so much more useful, and such a better store of value just in its cost of production and the issuance of it.
I think it's just so misunderstood too.
Yeah.
But I also think that this chart's maybe a little bit old. Like this is from Leaden, so it's would have been a blog post at some point here if I can see. But I'm guessing if this was updated to today, obviously this would be a little bit higher as well. Bitcoin probably would have flattened out here, but it does look like a mirror, right? Whenever Bitcoin's going up, it seems like it's in gold too, obviously. But I think that we would probably be seeing a little bit of a rise here right now if this was up to date today, because gold has outperformed Bitcoin for this year actually. But it wouldn't be anywhere near diverging again, getting back to this point here, which was in 2013.
Yeah. I mean, there's some great comments I'd like your perspective on here too, George.
Yep.
Darwin said, considering the generations transition, boomers, millennials, and Z, estate and gold will be performing worse. There's also people talking about, I mentioned the idea of diminishing returns. I think this kind of plays into it too. Well, in my theory, basically, is that large change happens over generations. Like it literally happens from death, and the wealth transfer that happens. And I see wealth getting put into more and more people's hands that understand Bitcoin, and everything that they save in goes into Bitcoin, and it's just rapidly going up. So I think the diminishing returns, I think the law of large number won't have as much of effect as the rapid adoption of a new monetary network like Bitcoin. Like we just haven't seen the adoption of Bitcoin as a monetary network yet. But I think when we do, that's law of large numbers doesn't really matter on that. Like, I mean, it'll play an effect, but it won't matter as much. So I think the trend of diminishing returns will reverse, and I think it's largely because of generational change. So I'd be curious to hear what you think about that.
I mean, it's something that I'm probably most bullish about in Bitcoin is the fact that if you consider, like, if you looked at your analytics right now and it might be different for us because we're kind of that age right now, but like the Bitcoiners, I think the average age of a Bitcoiner would be between 30 and 50 for the most part.
Probably, yep.
And I think that the people who are 30 to 50 right now, our parents are of the baby boomer generation. And a lot of that, whether it's in the stock market, whether it's in houses, whether it's in gold or precious metals, we have a lot of bonds, right? And it's like you have so many people who are our age right now who are getting into Bitcoin, and they're like selling their couch, their second chair in their house. They're selling everything that they can to buy Bitcoin. And all of a sudden something happens, whether they just get some stuff gifted to them, whether it's an inheritance, but all of a sudden they have this huge influx of assets essentially that they've been waiting on. They're like, oh my God, I can finally make a huge dent in Bitcoin here. And imagine how many instances we're going to see over the next decade of baby boomers passing their assets down to us, essentially, the millennials and the people who are taking Bitcoin the most serious right now. It's not going to stay in those assets for very long. You know, if I inherited some gold or a house or something, it would probably take me a week and it'd be converted into Bitcoin. And there's so many instances like that, which is just going to be kind of the next, I think, huge piece of adoption and growth in this market.
Yeah, I think you're right. And the other thing with that too is that means selling the other assets, which is going to make those assets perform not well, right? Like if everybody's all of a sudden trying to sell their house, which I've seen a lot of. I mean, again, echo chamber, whatever. But what's that other term? Yeah, it's not statistical necessarily. It's more anecdotal evidence, I guess. But I know a lot of people that are selling their homes, selling their rental properties, renting instead, and buying Bitcoin and leveraging with debt. I mean, it's just getting crazy. It's getting crazy because people that understand it recognize, like, I need to get as much of this as possible while I still can, while I have this opportunity that's historically going to be incredibly relevant. Like there's, you look at those old history books and you see like, JP Morgan and Carnegie, and Rockefeller, like they took these opportunities that they had, and then they saw where the world was going to go, and they just went all in on developing the railroad, and they bought all the other competition. They took so many bets to like build up this historical generational fortune that we still talk about when we look at those black and white photos. People are going to be looking back at these podcasts and these characters that are in Bitcoin and be like, oh wow, these people saw it and these people stacked relentlessly, and it's just going to be insane.
And you're going to need a good security team for us.
Yeah, we all are.
Big walls.
Some big walls. And some good security protocol too, which I think will be developed more and more as it becomes more and more of an issue.
Yeah, that's the other part too, is like back when they were building this stuff, it was a lot harder, I think, to keep your wealth, because even at that time they had the 30s where they confiscated a bunch of gold or made it pretty much illegal for individuals to own gold. But now with the tools that we have available with Bitcoin and how that works and how you're able to protect it, I think you said this one time, it just raises the cost of violence significantly to the point where it's not even, worth it for somebody to try to steal somebody else's Bitcoin. And
100%.
And it's only going to get better.
Yeah. And unfortunately, and there's a big spectrum of how secure people's Bitcoin is.
Yep.
A lot of people have Bitcoin on hot wallets. A lot of people leave it on exchanges. A lot of people click emails that say they're from their exchange when their email address is slightly different on it. And my wallet's in jeopardy. I got to move it to there's a lot of low hanging fruit right now still for scammers and people trying to steal people's Bitcoin. As I think some of those will begin to dry up, and as Bitcoin becomes more valuable, known figures with Bitcoin will become more of a target. But I think there is time, but I think it's a good idea to get ahead of. I think both of us are really aware of the need for exceptional security when it comes to this.
I think more than anything else, that's what you and I spend most of our time on in Bitcoin, is thinking through these things.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you want to be ahead of it. You don't want to have to think on your feet when this has actually become a problem. You want to think of the potential problems and have solutions for them way ahead of time. It's really the only way. Like it's what Bitcoin teaches you to become like a thinker, somebody that can think into the future.
Yep.
For the aspect of it giving you hope and potential for the future, because you can now save your wealth. You need to take that same ability to look into the future positively and look into the future in creatively, putting yourself in the scenarios of what is possible in a security risk.
Yeah. And when you were talking about guys like Rockefeller, Carnegie, all these guys who took a massive bet, they had to see I think of visionaries. That's how I see Bitcoiners. And anybody who understands Bitcoin is a visionary, because the whole world's telling them they're full of shit, right? But they know they can see it in their own mind of what's going to play out here. And I think having that ability is so unique at this time. It's easy to buy things when it's running up and everybody else has it already. But it's like, for somebody to be here now and to envision the future, imagine if those guys were around right now, how much they would be into this thing because they bet on oil, they bet on gold, they bet on real estate in some circumstances. But imagine if they had something that they knew was truly fixed, and how hard they would work to get a portion of that, because these guys were producing or manufacturing, I guess, oil, producing it, looking for gold in the case of Rockefeller. In New York, some of the prime real estate there, they took these massive bets on these assets, but they also knew that there's going to be more of it. There's going to be more real estate made. There's going to be more gold discovered in the future. If they had a fixed asset like Bitcoin, I can't even imagine of how much harder they would have went, if it's possible. But it's just such a unique dynamic here in Bitcoin with the absolute scarcity.
Yeah, and it's the same archetype, the same person is Saylor. Saylor's the prime example of this. He's doing everything that he can to buy as much Bitcoin as possible, and he's wrapping it in a corporate wrapper that is investable to the public. That's exactly what those guys would be doing if they existed today. And they seemed aware enough of the time of the potential of these technologies and products. So I'm assuming they would get into Bitcoin and crypto. And eventually everybody that gets into crypto eventually ends up in Bitcoin because they recognize the innovation. But yeah, it's like, they're those archetypes, those people, they exist today. We might not recognize them for what they are because they're not historical figures yet, but they're definitely here.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah.
Bitcoin baby, our favorite guy in the chat, or girl. You cannot cycle a fixed supply if nobody wants to sell it. It doesn't even make monetary sense. Well, you know what, Bitcoin baby, I think that Forrest and I are probably the two of the biggest Bitcoin advocates you'll find. And I sell Bitcoin pretty much every week when I need to pay my bills. When people escape the fiat cult, when they start valuing things in Bitcoin, when they start saving in Bitcoin, they're of course forced to sell some Bitcoin. And so every week I sell Bitcoin. So I don't know who's not selling Bitcoin. I know there's a thing in, the never sell your Bitcoin, but it's not possible. If you're fully in on Bitcoin, if you're living on a Bitcoin standard, it is not possible to never sell your Bitcoin, because you have to live, you have to eat, you have to pay your mortgage or your rent or whatever it is. Even if you owned every asset outright, you still need to live. You still need to pay for food. There might be like a rare exception of somebody out there who has their own farmland, their own garden, their own cows that they do, but it's really hard for, anybody to just never sell your Bitcoin, from my perspective. Anyways, what do you think on that?
100%. You're 100% right. It's either like you're all in living the Bitcoin standard and you can sell your Bitcoin for other things, or you're not fully allocated to Bitcoin and you have some cash on the side.
Yep.
I think you called it a LARP, but it's like, it just is what it is. Like, some people are not willing to have the effect of the only risk in Bitcoin, or the main risk in Bitcoin is volatility, short-term volatility risk.
Yeah.
And you can offset that by having dollars. You know that the dollars you're going to hold are not going to perform as well as if you were fully allocated to Bitcoin on average, but you're just not willing to sell Bitcoin at a loss, deal with the capital gains, the complexity, what have you, and you just have some dollars on the side to cover expenses. That's how most people are with Bitcoin. Most people are not as hardcore as you, right? Like, that's basically how I am. Like, I have like a little bit of money just to be able to pay bills, and then everything extra goes into Bitcoin. I don't sell my Bitcoin to
Really?
No, I don't. But that's just because, like, I think it's like, I haven't been willing to make that shift that you make, right?
So I guess the difference between you and me, Forrest, now would be like, when you have some income streams that would pay you in fiat.
Exactly.
So that's kind of just what you keep in your little holding tank for immediate bills.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'll go into debt. Like, I'll allow lines of credit to expand until more fiat comes in, and I'll pay those off. So like, I'm short dollars basically. But I do have some dollars. Like, I have accounts with dollars in them to be able to pay like rent and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like, it's about efficiency right now. Like, I think if there was more, it's about efficiency for tax treatment. It's about efficiency for accounting. I just don't want to make a mess of it right now, but I'm really close to like making a mess of it. If I like, it's, you know, I think it's doable. Like, like you're doing it. So I think it is doable.
It does require quite a bit of attention though. That's the thing, right? And I really have to pay attention to be aware of like when I think I'm going to get paid versus when I have to come up with a payment. But I actually really like the idea of leveraging a line of credit like that, which I actually might tap into myself, because you can almost treat like a leaden loan. But how would that work? Like, could you do that where you have Bitcoin in an account with leaden, and anytime you need to pull from it, you could, or do you have to take the proceeds all at once?
When you initiate the loan, you have to take the proceeds all at once, and then you can pull money out of it or like raise your loan to value if you're below 30%.
Mm-hmm.
So you could over collateralize your loan with leaden and then be able to pull from it. It wouldn't be super efficient though.
No.
No, well, I don't know. Maybe that is possible. For me, it's like, I just use like a bank line of credit, and then basically when fiat comes in, I pay that off, and then if anything's extra, I go into Bitcoin. So it's kind of like the Jack Mallers strategy where he just like uses a credit card, right?
Yeah.
He uses a credit card for everything, and then at the end of the month, pays it off, but sells some Bitcoin to pay it off. The only difference is that I just time it and pay it off with fiat that comes in, and if there's not enough fiat to come in, I just allow the credit to roll, right, a little bit.
He also would have to sell some of his Bitcoin.
Yes, he does. Yeah, he does. Which works, right? Like, there's a few different platforms that have this ability where you can pay bills through the platform and send Bitcoin to the platform or hold Bitcoin on the platform, and it liquidates that and pays your bill for you from the cash proceeds. So that's basically what he's doing as well through Strike. I think in the US you can do that, and I know you can do that through Bitcoin Well as well. Like Bitcoin Well is basically trying to build a product that replaces a bank. So you can just have Bitcoin as your balance. You can use fiat to pay, or like you can have fiat bills and pay all your bills with Bitcoin. So you don't even need a bank. You can be completely debanked, basically.
Which is unreal.
Pretty unreal. Yeah.
Yeah. The more of these tools that become available, I think there's going to be more and more people going down that road. I just shared a link to Bitcoin Well. Maple Bitcoin actually has I think that's the one I shared.
Yep.
Yeah.
Maple Bitcoin.
Maple Bitcoin actually has a referral program with Bitcoin Well, where if you sign up for an account, I think you get some free toss into the wishing well, which equals free sats. So if you're in Canada, especially, and you're not using Bitcoin Well yet, Bull Bitcoin's right up there too. Like I like Bull Bitcoin. I like everything that they're doing, but man, Bitcoin Well is just so easy to use, and they have a lot of functionality and options that Bull Bitcoin doesn't have, including free swaps. So if you're somebody who uses on-chain, uses Lightning, you can actually use Bitcoin Well, use your account there to swap between layers for free. Plus you can pay bills. Plus they have a very good spread, very low fees. And of course they're non-custodial, which means that they don't actually hold any of your Bitcoin. There's zero chance of rug, which I like. And that's why Forrest and I both have zero issues promoting Bitcoin Well because of that. There's no risk to us.
Exactly. No risk. Yeah. I wouldn't feel comfortable promoting an exchange that's custodial, because who am I to have the knowledge of them not having paper Bitcoin or being completely solvent? That's not a risk with a non-custodial exchange. Bitcoin Well also has the network of ATMs, which are a way to have non-KYC Bitcoin, which is pretty rare. There's not really many other options out there, and their fees are around like 7% all in, spreads and fees, where you go to any other Bitcoin ATM, it's 15-20%. So yeah, huge respect to Bitcoin Well for what they're doing here.
Yeah, so we just shared that link in the chat there, and I'll put it in our pinned comments after as well for that link if anybody wants to get a Bitcoin Well account. There's a lot of comments here, Forrest.
Yeah, there is.
I'm trying to look at a few of them here. I don't think I can get through all of them, but I do want to say a big shout out here. We got a couple of zaps that came through the airwaves here. Looks like 65 Sats sent in 1650.
Nice.
We got 1,000 sats here and said both gold and Bitcoin are better than fiat. Gold bros and Bitcoin bros unite. Absolutely true.
Yeah, I feel a little bit of animosity towards a lot of the crypto bros out there. I feel like they kind of grind my gears a little bit, but the gold bros don't. I mean, Peter Schiff is a troll, but besides that, like gold people figured out the problem. They just don't have the right solution, in my opinion, because gold does not solve for the centralization, the verifiability. It doesn't solve for a lot of things that Bitcoin solves. And I think that a lot of gold people, if you ask them about Bitcoin, they'll literally just be like, I don't understand it. Like I've gotten that a lot from people that are gold bugs, and they don't have the mental capacity for it. I'm sure that everybody's capable of understanding Bitcoin to some level, but gold is sound money historically. It holds its value, blah blah blah. They just stick to what they know. They just cannot take the time to, or some of them have not been able to take the time to understand Bitcoin. But I think if they did really understand it and got over the hump of it not being being digital, right? Like there's a lot of people that say, it's not real, it's not backed by anything, it's not tangible, which is a really funny argument. It's kind of like saying like an email is not real because it didn't come in the mail and I can't hold it. Similar, different, but similar.
Similar, but I mean, you could fake an email. You can't fake Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the inability to double spend is a real, true innovation, and that's what 90% of the white paper is about. Is the system for maintaining a ledger held by anyone that wants to, without the ability to double spend. Because digital, you can copy and paste, right? Bitcoin, you can't copy and paste. There's the decentralized network confirms something is invalid when you try to do something like that. It's a serious innovation.
Yes, and another serious innovation is if you are a gold bug out there watching the stream by chance, I want you to try an experiment here. Take an ounce of gold or a gold coin and try sending it to us. Try to throw it through your computer screen as hard as you possibly can and see if it finds its way to us. But I mean, it's funny because it's true. But the other thing is too, like if you might say, well, I didn't want to send you any gold or any sats anyway, so screw you guys. But it's like you can't pay for things online with gold. I think that's the point of it, right? If you wanted to order something, whether it's half an hour away or 2 continents across the world, you can send Bitcoin, and there's no exchange rates there. It's just Bitcoin, and it happens in either 5 seconds using Lightning or 5 to 10 minutes using on-chain, which is a pretty powerful idea as we head into even more of a digital age here.
Yeah. Final settlement in a commodity asset that can't be debased, cannot be faked. It's incredible. You don't have that anywhere else. It's going to take you a lot longer to ship that chunk of mail to us if you try to.
Especially using Canada Post.
Yeah.
Buggers.
Are they on strike?
Yeah.
They're always striking. Those people never work.
Oh my God. We got another zap here, 3690. I'm guessing that was from Alexandra in Germany. That's her favorite zap. So thank you for that. We get 2,500 sats here from our guy Ian, Cleaner Machine. And 1111, Live Free zap. I'm guessing that was from Samantha. And she said, hi again, Jor, and hi, Forest. So it was Samantha.
Nice. Cool.
So thank you, everybody. That's this address right here, Maple Bitcoin at Coinos. It shows up on our screen. If you want to put a message in there, you can, or you can send it to that QR code beside Forrest's head there. And those sats will never be spent. That's our Maple Bitcoin fund that we plan to leverage into growing the network for many years to come here. We got a lot of big plans with Maple Bitcoin.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you see any comments worth chatting about here? There's a lot.
There's a lot. Yeah, there's a ton of comments. It's crazy. Verhoofty Floofin asked, so the total market cap of gold includes paper gold. The market cap is not, there's no good metric to measure the value of an asset. Market cap is representative of total stock, known stock of something, the number of that asset, times the last recorded buy and sell. So the last market transaction of that asset. So if somebody is trading tokenized gold, which is paper gold, so GLD, that's going to have an effect on the price because that is a sell of something that represents gold. And so that 100% paperized gold does affect the market cap of gold.
Which has been a pretty good tool for them to use to manipulate things.
Yeah, and they can also do that. Like, there's like, it's kind of confusing because people will say like paper gold when they're thinking when they're talking about a stock or an ETF that represents physical gold somewhere being held somewhere that they're paying a fee to have. But then there's also real paper gold, which is just future contracts of gold ownership. And those things, people like, yeah, they can sell those to manipulate the price of actual gold, and then they can buy actual gold, and yeah, so they can do all sorts of things with that. So the idea of paper gold, I mean, definitions are incredibly important, but there's maybe two types of paper gold in a way.
True.
Yeah.
Ecology says, George, do you sell more Bitcoin in a day where it's higher and therefore you maybe spend extra that day? No.
Really?
No.
You don't try to time it whatsoever. It's just when you need to. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's really this simple. Like whenever I get paid from anybody, I just buy Bitcoin, like literally smash buy Bitcoin, whatever the amount is, whatever the price is, don't care. And then, so from that, I kind of have two different ways. It kind of goes into a holding tank for me, which is Aqua. I like Aqua because you can use on-chain, you can use Lightning, you can it's very functional. And then let's say a month or two goes by and I have a balance in there. Let's say it's 500,000 sats. I'm in the pluses. Then I send that to my cold storage wallet.
Okay.
But everything,
so
and
then if checking and savings almost.
Exactly. I kind of see Aqua as like my checking account and cold storage is my savings.
Yeah.
And it's pretty simple to do because like let's say that a bigger expense comes up that's abnormal, like a new set of tires or my car insurance or whatever that may be, or a trip coming up. I can actually sell some just to different people within the community who will send me cash directly for it. I can send them it on Lightning or Liquid or on chain. Or if I have just something small, I can actually send it to my ShakePay, which will arrive in Bitcoin, and then I can swap it into dollars. And then you can actually use a Visa card with ShakePay for groceries, for gas, for anything that has like a tap card on it.
Mm-hmm.
So it really depends. I have a couple different routes of doing that, but that's kind of my main two ones. I'll just sell it to another Bitcoiner, or I'll sell it on ShakePay if it's just a smaller amount and I need to pay a phone bill or something like that, or groceries.
So you don't use credit cards at all. You just use the ShakePay, which is actually a cash account
It's prepaid.
Yeah, it's a prepaid. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I have two credit cards, and the last time I went to use one of them, it was declined, and that was kind of the last time I thought about it. So I know that I don't have a huge balance on there unless somebody, hacked me or something. But
it's probably from inactive use. They'll shut your accounts down after a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Okay. Well,
that's like a real straight up way of doing it. I mean, that's just, and so like, I guess the thing there too is like tax implication. I actually think what you do is incredibly interesting. So I wanted to get more into it, but so like if you buy Bitcoin and then sell it and it goes down, that's actually going to be going against your capital gains potentially.
Yeah.
So it sort of begins to even out. And then because you're holding it and it's an asset that's going up and to the right over time, you'll end up paying some capital gains, but you will have held that Bitcoin instead of dollars. So you will have seen that gain. Yeah.
I feel like, this is just kind of my opinion on things, and I'm not going to give any tax or legal advice or anything of that nature. But like if you had 10 Bitcoin that you bought back in the day and, you wanted to buy a house with that, so you had to flip it into cash, it's pretty clear what the cost of that Bitcoin was at the time versus what it is now. And it's a large amount. And probably if you did that, you might have somebody knocking on your door. But if you're just like treating it like a money instead of like buying a huge thing, like you're right. Some days it'll go up, some days it'll go down. I mean, think about it. Let's say you just play this out in your head. Let's say you bought $200 worth of Bitcoin at $100,000. And so $200 worth of Bitcoin, $100,000 Bitcoin, and it went up to $105,000 the next week. So you have a $5,000 capital gain, but you only have a $200 Bitcoin amount. It would end up being like $2 or something that you actually have to pay tax on. Like it's so minuscule if you're using like small amounts. And that's why even if I have to sell like a larger chunk of Bitcoin, I always do it on Lightning or Liquid, and I get them to send like smaller amounts over to me, like through e-transfer, through PayPal. So it's kind of below the $500,000, $500 or $600 threshold. So there's ways to do it. You just have to be very thoughtful and methodical about it, I think.
Yep, for sure.
And just take a bit of a risk because, I might be in trouble one day, but I just don't see it as, like, logically speaking, why would you pay tax on money?
It's very illogical, and but there's a lot of laws that are not logical. So
you're right.
I mean, subjective. Yeah,
he's not wrong here. But again, let's fast forward this out for 10 years from now, and let's say that one Bitcoin's worth $10 million, and I have to sell, $1 million worth to buy whatever I want. Like, I'm probably going to pay it then because I'm going to have a lot more eyes on me. A larger transaction like that is pretty hard to get, avoid that. But is it worth somebody's time to chase me for $2 worth of income tax because I sold some Bitcoin for fiat and made a small gain on it? I don't know.
I guess the other thing too is, like, sure, if they can catch you on that, okay, then you'll just be like, all right, here you go.
That's what I mean.
It's like
if you want to send some CRA dipshit out here for 3 days to try to find $10 worth of tax for me, like, go ahead.
Go ahead, exactly.
But I'm not going to voluntarily,
right?
Yeah. I'm not going to voluntarily tell them about everything. Like, it'd be too much of my time, I think, to try to track it all. So anyways, point is, I eventually want to use my Bitcoin. Probably how I kind of see it playing out is I will just take a big loan against my Bitcoin at some point. But that's why people should be thinking about this stuff now in terms of like your UTXOs and which ones you're comfortable exposing to the banks and essentially KYCing those.
Yeah.
And doxing your balance to, your local credit union. It'll be very interesting to see how the whole thing plays out with banks, with lending facilities, with businesses accepting Bitcoin, with different layers being built on top of Bitcoin, which makes it more private and harder to track.
Yeah. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. I think I'm really excited for the ability to use Bitcoin as collateral, not as a secured loan, but as a way to show proof of ability to pay a loan and get a better rate because of that. So that's sort of the thesis of People's Reserve, although I haven't really been following them since they launched their own liquidity pool token, basically. Yeah. But that theory can develop as it becomes more accepted institutionally, which you wouldn't actually necessarily put your Bitcoin at risk in a loan, but just get a better rate because you have so much, because you're so wealthy with the amount of Bitcoin you have.
And that's the thing too, even with lending Bitcoin, it's like, we're going to get to a point where not only will you get a better rate, but like your credit score is going to be completely non-existent anymore.
Yeah.
Even lending right now, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I was going to say that.
So you've been through the process of that. Like, you didn't need to provide your passport or your credit score or anything like that, right? Like, it happens in a couple minutes, doesn't it?
You do have to KYC yourself,
right?
To KYC loan exchange. So I did have to take a picture of it could have been my passport, but I think I did my driver's license. So KYC'd, and then as soon as that's approved, which happens really quickly, there's an address you can send Bitcoin. So it's a custodial loan. You send an amount of Bitcoin there, and they receive it, and they give you 50% of it within like a day or two. And it just shows up in your bank account, like your linked bank account. Incredibly easy. No credit check. No, who are you? You're not allowed to. None of that. If you have the Bitcoin, you got the Bitcoin. That's the thing that matters.
I wonder how many non-KYC options will pop up in the future. It might be harder though, just because there's so much money moving around behind the scenes.
Well, I mean, there is an argument for DeFi protocols because that's non-KYC. But a lot of those are just built to over leverage and how, like, require you to do all this altcoin nonsense, and none of them are built for like true cold storage self custody, even though they could be, because you're creating a smart contract instead of actually giving custody over. I don't know. There's a long way to go with that kind of stuff, but there's the possibility. And this is kind of what I say, like, with all, I've been saying this for a long time with crypto stuff, is like any innovation that happens there will eventually just come to Bitcoin in some additional layer. So I'm not against, like, I'm against scams, pump and dumps, like 99% of crypto stuff. But if there's some innovation in the ability to use a decentralized exchange or a decentralized loaning product or something like that that doesn't require KYC because of it being decentralized, then that could be useful. Like that, there's utility in that. So I just don't think that owning a token associated with that is going to accrue value more than Bitcoin. And I think a lot of that stuff is just going to fail. And I'm not investing in basically unregistered securities that have no actual connection to the profit of these businesses, right? It just doesn't make any sense to me. And I think a lot of people think, oh, well, if XYZ Dex does well, then their token will do well as well. And it's just, no, that doesn't make any sense. Like that's just perception that those two things are connected when they're not necessarily so. But again, some of that innovation will make its way to Bitcoin in my eyes.
Yeah, because right now, I feel like the reason why you'd have to KYC yourself is you might not even have to, like, as part of the process. But if Ledn was going to send you money, they obviously need to know your bank account and your bank information, which has your identity attached to that, right? So even if you didn't have to like upload your driver's license into Ledn, they would still be able to trace everything because of it's being connected to your bank account, which is fully KYC'd. So I just picture a world now where maybe there's less reliance on banks. Like people aren't really forced to go through the fiat rails anymore. And that's kind of what we're talking about, the DeFi stuff. But I think for that to really go full circle and really cut the banks out of that whole equation there, businesses are going to have their payment systems set up to accept like different tokens or USDT, where you actually can do the whole process without going back through the fiat rails, right? Because that's what it is right now. That's the whole game right now, and why it is KYC is because you still have to go through your traditional banking system to get that cash and then spend it. Whereas if you could do this on a smart contract where you get USDT tokens, but you still have to have a mortgage, a lender who would accept those, or whatever your groceries are, they would have to accept those tokens so you can avoid that. And I feel like that's going to come.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it'll come, and I think it'll be we're sort of in this weird position where so much of the ability to do anything on any of this with anything crypto and Bitcoin related is connected directly to the on and off ramps of the fiat system. So there's still this, like, these networks by themselves, but they're siloed without the connection of the on ramps, right? And the on ramps are a point of control and a point of censorship and a point of permission. And you have to port yourself over to those other networks to exist completely within them, which is difficult, right? So I think it takes time. I think it takes way more people adopting it. I think it takes technology being built on top of it. I think it takes the on-ramps that are like, yeah, we know the fiat system's collapsing. We want to help people get off of it. Like, we want to make it as easy as possible. I think that needs to end up being a place as well, because there's a lot of restriction. I mean, you go to certain countries and it's like incredibly restrictive with the on and off ramps. So we're kind of blessed where we are. There's still restrictive. There's still debanking. There's still all sorts of problems. But there's going to be a way out of that system for you, for the vast majority of people in North America. There's a way out currently.
Yeah, I see a question here from Atelier. Would be nice to create a video of how to live on Bitcoin standards, explaining what George is doing and other people. What about capital gains and all that? I mean, what I would say to that is, I actually did a video with a girl or a lady named Noah on from Bitcoin Citadel last week on the channel. She lives fully on. She's even further into it than I am in terms of utilizing debt, credit cards, lines of credits, Ledn, everything to live off of and buy more Bitcoin with. It's really cool. She's way more advanced than I am. But I think the main thing that you could do right now, maybe we'll just call him Geo here, is start networking with other Bitcoiners. I think that's the most powerful thing you can do, because the more Bitcoiners you have in your network, the easier it's going to be for you to transition from fiat to Bitcoin, which means if you had Bitcoin and you had a rancher that lives a couple miles down the road that you could pay in Bitcoin, you don't need the fiat system anymore for anything. You drive down there, you get a half a cow, you pay them in Bitcoin. Fiat is not part of that equation there. Or if you're looking for some honey or maple syrup or your favorite, I don't know, baked goods that's, a town away, but they accept Bitcoin. Again, you can do that whole transaction without the fiat rails, which makes your life way easier. And when you don't have to dance around the fiat system, when you don't have to go in and out of it, there's way less attention to like capital gains and all that kind of stuff, because there's no real, if you do it properly, there's no real, they'd have to look down 1,000 different holes to find you, essentially.
Yeah, there's nobody else in that transaction. You can make it peer-to-peer. Yeah, peer-to-peer transaction. Yeah, the miner is not another, they're not determining whether your transaction, they're basically including your transaction because you've paid them to do so, but they're not censoring you. They're not, the Bitcoin network accepts your transaction as long as you've constructed it in a valid way. That's so yeah, it's a peer-to-peer transaction essentially. Yeah, I mean, I'm a part of the attempt of a circular economy here. There's we do a meetup every 3 weeks called Bitcoin Valley, and we had a new guy come. We have about 20 people show up every time, but one new guy came that has a business that was asking a bunch of really, really great questions, and he's a personal trainer and owns a gym that he hired, or other personal trainers come in and like train at his gym essentially. He now accepts Bitcoin, and he was asking like, okay, what do I do with this Bitcoin now? Like, and I'm like, well, we can keep it within this economy, right? There's this person over here does this service. We have about 20 plus businesses, right? And it's just the money stays within the system. The Bitcoin stays within the system, moving around the circular economy. And then there's no need for an on or off ramp at that point. And these things start small, but like as soon as one, like there's competitors, right? So there's a business that accepts Bitcoin and there's one that doesn't. What business will end up being more successful? The one that stores its value in something that isn't decaying every single day. Yeah. So it become, and then it becomes really obvious. Okay, well, what did that business do differently? They accept Bitcoin. Well, I'll accept Bitcoin. It's easy to do. It's easy to accept Bitcoin. You download a Coinos wallet, you now accept Bitcoin, of course, in a custodial scenario, but then you go to a couple meetups, you learn about self-custody, boom, you're set. You're good to go. Yeah, there's a food truck that accepts Bitcoin here that has thousands of dollars of Bitcoin sales. They've just acquired Bitcoin through selling burgers and all sorts of stuff. And it's, I never would have went there. I literally never would have went there if they didn't.
It's free marketing Bitcoin too.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not only are they're storing their value and their profits properly, but it's free marketing. And all it takes is like that food truck owner or the gym owner to be at a party or an event with his friends who also owns a business, and he just starts telling the story of like, it might be a couple years out, and that goes right back to the whole visionaries thing, right? Mm-hmm. Because in order to fully buy into that plan, you need to have a clear vision of what the future is going to look like. Otherwise, it's just a complete waste of time and everything like that. But like you said, it's easier to look back and say, what did these guys do right? But those aren't visionaries. Those are people who are trying to replicate other people once it's already happened. Yeah. But in order to do it, get the most benefit out of this transition here, you have to be a trailblazer. You have to be an early adopter of it. So then that guy tells another guy, and so he starts doing it. So then there's another business in that area. And then all of a sudden they start seeing these bees on every brick and mortar business. And they're like, why is everybody accepting this? And then it just becomes kind of a thing. And we've seen that actually play out in several different parts of the world, including, I think it's Lugano. Yeah. Like every business there accepts Bitcoin now, because you're almost, you're the oddball out if you're not accepting Bitcoin once it gets to that point.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It becomes inconvenient for your customers if you don't accept a certain type of payment. It's like going to a store and it's cash only. It's like, oh man, that sucks. I got to go run over to the ATM, right? Like that creates a lot of friction. because they're not accepting the payment system that's preferred by their customer. So that's all that person is doing that now accepts Bitcoin is, oh, we accept all this other crap, but we also accept Bitcoin. So it's an add-on for the customer, and it's optional. Yeah, and I think it's incredibly powerful. And I think you're right that it's this network effect. Like, you know, he said that he's got all these other personal trainers, and he said, oh, I'll start by accepting Bitcoin, and I'll eventually, you know, chat to them and see if they want to do it as well, right? So it's like just one node connects to all these other nodes, and these individuals create the network, which is Bitcoin. And I think a major infrastructure upgrade is actually happening very soon with Block and Square.
Yes,
rolling it out to their merchants. They've done a lot of testing pilots. There's that coffee shop in DC has it integrated and working. And I think it rolls out everywhere internationally on November 10th, the ability to accept Bitcoin through a Square terminal, which is like years in the making, I think. It's a long time coming, but if and when that actually happens, if that's true, that it's coming on November 10th, I mean, that's so easy to accept Bitcoin now, like incredibly easy.
I mean, compared to even now where you have to get to, you know, you have to figure out how to do it. You have to figure out why Bitcoin. You have to figure out how to keep track of it. You have to figure out your cold storage, all this kind of stuff. But where with Square, I'm pretty sure you can actually decide how much you want to use, whether you want to store 5% of your profit in Bitcoin, 10%, 15%. I'm guessing the terminal itself will have all the accounting done behind the scenes in terms of, you know, your cost base of it. It's going to make things so easy there. And that's what this industry needs more than anything.
So easy. Yeah, it's going to be so easy. And yeah, 100% right. People can accept as much as they want or convert it to fiat right away. And then there's no capital gains with that, right? Because they literally accepted one currency and sold it for the exact same price as what they accepted it as. And then it's just recorded as a regular transaction. So it's yeah, that's gonna be a huge unlock. And then it's literally gonna be every Bitcoiner's job to, when they go to a place and they see a little Square terminal, just being like, hey, oh, do you accept Bitcoin? And they'll be like, no. And then you'd be like, but you're using Square, that you can accept Bitcoin using Square. And then the next Bitcoiner comes in and asks the same thing, and they'll be like, oh yeah, we set that up. And it's just like, that's when adoption can really happen, is when it's like literally zero friction for them to do so.
And they start seeing some, you know, some positivity from it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, according to my school here, Maple Bitcoin Happy Hour is happening in 1 minute.
Wow.
So we're going to hop over there, Forrest. Oh, it's starting now, actually. So anybody who's in the school community, we'll be there in a minute or two here. We're a little bit late today. But yeah, our Maple Bitcoin school is growing by the week here. We got 166 members in there right now from all over the world. We got a lot of lifetime members in there, which means there's a very low time preference. People plan on being there forever. And when you're thinking about these connections and circular economy and living on a Bitcoin standard, I think the easiest no-brainer thing that you can do at this stage is just start interacting with other Bitcoiners. And there's no better platform that I've found anywhere than school for that. And it, you know, it could be Maple Bitcoin, it could be a different one, but it just has so much functionality on here between the live streams, the discussion boards, the content in there. We have a lot of exclusive content. We'll probably be talking about living on a Bitcoin standard and kind of a more in-depth thing on the channel, on the school here. But yeah, consider joining if you haven't already. And I think we both shared the link there, right?
Yeah, we did share the link, and we're going to jump over there now. So we'll see everybody over there.
School.com. What is it? School.com / Maple Bitcoin.
Yeah.
There it is.
Thanks everyone for tuning into our live stream here on YouTube. And we appreciate all the questions. I know we didn't get to a lot of them, but overall, really fun live anyway. So yeah.
It's hard, man. It's hard to stay engaged with, you know, I want to have a good conversation here. I don't want to be just looking through the chat the whole time.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, big shout out to everybody who did send in some sats to our Maple Bitcoin Reserve. You can do that with the QR code there. And yeah, we'll see everybody over in the Maple Bitcoin School Happy Hour. So thanks, Forrest. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.
See you guys.